Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another Fool's Gold review of the DC Future State. And this time we are going to be covering Dark Detective and Justice League. And here's how things run with this. This is how I rate it, and also how much I think it's worth. As you can see there, as this is $5.99, this is $10.75 in Australian dollars, and it's also the same for the Justice League one. And out of that, I practically give my thoughts on how much I think that this comic is worth. You might think differently, and that's 100% fine with me. So, let's get moving on to the first review. So, starting off with the cover. Does the cover actually show what really happens in story in relation to this story? Care of Tamaki. Fool's Gold, big fat no. And in that, it actually scored a 3 out of 10 from me, which brings it up to about 70 cents. That's how much I thought it was worth. Very disappointing. It is nice in appearance, but it doesn't really 100% match the story. Let's move into the internal art in regards to the story. As you can see, this is something towards the beginning. I'll now move quickly to something towards the end of the story. And this is up towards the end of the story. Now, seeing that there are two stories in this, I'll move on to the second story as I finish off the art and the story rating. For the art, I thought it was worth about a 5. It was pretty mediocre. It wasn't terribly strong, but it wasn't terribly weak either. And this is where I think the art is worth about $1. Just $1. In regards to the story, we've got, of course, the key location being Gotham, and the key characters being Bruce Wayne, who also appears as Batman within the story, and Peacekeeper. It was quite interesting. You get to see the appearance of Peacekeeper doing something to Batman, but it didn't come off as a very strong story. I liked a little of the narration, but it still needed time to allow the art to breathe, to tell the story. So, let's move on to the second story, to which actually deals with Grifter. Of course, the key person in that is Grifter, and it takes place in Gotham. I'll now show some art around the story. Okay, this is some of the art from the story, and I must admit, I felt the same in regards to the art, in regards to the last story. It felt mediocre. It didn't come off as strong as it was meant to come off, and in that, it got a 5 out of 10. Now, back to Grifter's main story, you get to follow the character of Grifter and what he's doing in his part of Gotham, as well as some of the people that he encounters. And it just did not come off as strong as the last one, but the story was a little bit better compared to the last one. And in that, it got a 4 out of 10. So in that, it was worth about 90 cents. And I really enjoyed that. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. Time to move on to the next. So now we finally move into the Justice League. And starting off with the cover, it's a 5 out of 10. It sort of does match which happens inside of the story. Let's move to the art. This is some of the internal art towards the beginning of the story. I'll now show you something around midway for this one, not towards the end. It will give away a spoiler, especially if you haven't read this book yet. As you can see, it did sort of hold up in some of the consistency within the art, which was really quite nice. And to which I gave the art rating of a 5 out of 10. To which again, it's worth about $1. Time to move on to the story itself. Right, moving on to the story rating, some of the cast of characters and locations that turn up are, of course, the Hall of Justice and Amnesty Bay, the first times that they appear in this Future State run. Of course, we have Yara Flor, John Samuel Kent, Superboy, to which his characterization was quite alright. I wouldn't give it the best characterization, but it was alright. Of course, we've got Green Lantern, Flash, and a couple of the others there. But if I were to tell you about the spoiler, it would probably ruin the comic for you. So this is where I gave the story a 5 out of 10. So very mediocre story. There were some small things I liked in it, and there were other things I didn't quite like in it. Because there were things at the beginning that didn't feel properly established. Moving on to the second story. Justice League Dark. Now, this is some art for the beginning of the story, and it was actually really nice, and it fitted the environment and the scene within the story, and I really enjoyed it. I will show you some towards the end. I will say one thing, this was really enjoyable, and I wouldn't mind seeing more of this. To which I gave the art 7 out of 10, to which I believe the story is worth, to which I believe the art is worth $1.50. Now, moving into the story, we had the cast of characters of Zatanna, Ragman, plus a whole list of others, including Dr. Fate, John Constantine, and I really enjoyed their characterization in this story. We went to some town. What was it called? Oh, sorry about this. I'm going to have to re-look it up again. They went to a place called Cardboard Town, and I enjoyed what they were also giving in the story to give world building. And this is where the story of this got 7 out of 10, and I really enjoyed what was done here. So a big thanks to those who worked on this story. Until then, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until hit the notification bell if you enjoyed the content. Let's keep it colourful.